My dear Spencer,
Yes?
I made an erroneous error last week and it needs corrected.
Okay. I like it when I'm not the one that fucked up. I appreciate this.
It's kind of on you too because you didn't notice.
Oh,
well. This is hard. It was a big fuck up. This is hard. Last week, I called you Spencer, the Elephant Evacuator Church.
Yeah.
Where's the location?
Ooh,
It's supposed to be a location.
Yeah.
That's why I get up and do the fucking bullshit with the map.
Yes.
But folks, for first-time listeners, I always give Spencer a stupid name off this dumb globe we get. It's a region in the world, followed by a dumb name I come up with using alliteration. Stupid gag that's probably not funny, never was funny, but we continue to do it. Well, last week I got up, looked at the fucking globe. I actually get up and do this every time, and then I gave him the name and just forgot the location. But I remembered the location, so I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget, even though it's not that hard. You're supposed to be Spencer, the Ecuadorian Elephant Evacuator Church.
That makes so much more sense.
So much more sense. I don't know if there's elephants in Ecuador. Probably not.
Because I evacuated all of them.
I don't think South America has elephants that I know of, but you evacuated them all to Africa. That little known fact.
Yeah.
So that's the first correction I think we've ever had. It was a big one.
Well, considering that it took us this long to make an error like that, I think it's pretty good.
That's not too bad. Actually, we've probably done that before, but I just never noticed. I almost didn't notice when I was editing. I actually noticed because I repeated it, or you repeated. One of us did because we were start talking about it a little bit later after I said it, and we fucked it up again. I was like, oh, that's supposed to be the gimmick.
What if we just got a whole bunch of just like emails and things on social media?
Everybody was upset about it. You guys forgot your stupid joke that you do all the time. You know what? Maybe I'll just bring Surge back then. Get rid of the names, do Surge. Which, it was really dumb because I think even at the end of the episode, we brought it up again because we brought up your OnlyFans.
Oh, yes.
And it's always your name, you change it for the OnlyFans. And I was like, oh, you're the fucking Elephant Evacuator. Like, no. So I'm sorry, folks, that you tried to look up Spencer's thing and couldn't find it. I gave you the wrong name.
That explains the low cast flow last week.
You're in the poorhouse. Oh, I'm trying to figure out how to delete something. Where's the button? Come on, man. It should be right up top.
Just send it to every contact on your phone.
If I knew how to read, this would be a lot more helpful. Remove. There. It didn't say deleted, it said remove.
I hate when I stupid shit like that. I get.
You were looking for deleted, not remove. And neither here nor there. In other news, because I read the Norm Macdonald, what is it, Not a Memoir? Very funny book. I really enjoyed it. And because I actually wanted to read that for some time now, and I just happened to order it, and then he died like immediately. So
I was gonna ask you, how old of a book was it? Like, was something he put out recently, or
in the last 10 years? But I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was really funny. So because you like that kind of humor, I was like, well, Spencer has to read this, but we have this thing where if I make Spencer read a book, I have to read a Stephen King book in return. For some fucking reason. I didn't start this. He did.
I did. Hey, it's one of the only things from this podcast that actually goes in my favor at all. Normally, it's everything coming at me.
Right. That's true. I usually make you do a bunch of shit you don't want to do. So, of course, you made me start the podcast, so that's on you anyway, bucko.
How did it make you start the podcast?
Because you're like, Keely, we need to start a podcast. I'm like, I gotta learn how to do it then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn it.
What happened?
So anyway, a couple days ago, I think, started a Stephen King book, and I've been really enjoying it. Would you like to care to guess? Because I told you I was going to start something, but it was not what I said.
No, it was different seasons is what you told me.
Which I didn't do. I wanted something different.
Okay.
It was one of your suggestions.
Oh, it was one of my suggestions? Oh, was it from a Buick-Aid?
No. Revival.
Okay.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
I got to some of the gory bits, and it's pretty fucked up so far, so I'm enjoying it.
That was one of the ones that, like, it affected my writing because I was having trouble putting the book down. Like,
yeah, it's an easy read, but it's gripping, I'll say that.
And one of his newer works. Yeah.
See, you sent me this list of books, and you're like, oh, they're all fairly short, and they were all at least 400 to 500 pages, so they're not fairly short. I mean, maybe for Stephen King, but the only one...
those ones were shorter than different seasons would have been.
Yeah, that's true. I almost was like, hey, what if I just read Colorado Kid? But I knew I wouldn't have a good time with that, because you said it wasn't very good. If you didn't like it, that means I'll probably just throw the book away. So, yeah, I'm reading Revival. I'm enjoying it. And then we're going to read Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. John Cena. I don't know how John Cena fits into Blood Meridian, but if he was walking around back then, they'd be scared of him. He's a big dude.
Oh, yeah. Especially back then, because he would have been like a monster.
Yeah. But I don't know if you noticed, in our classic literature group, a couple of people posted about them reading Blood Meridian right now. I guess it's popular for October. And they were saying it's very brutal if you look at some of the comments.
I can say I saw some people saying something about it, but because I saw that you commented, like you responded to somebody saying like that you were getting ready to start it, and I didn't really dive too much into it because with not reading yet, I didn't know if people were going to be talking about it and stuff like that, so I didn't want to chance it, but... Right.
Well... According to everybody, this is Cormac McCarthy's masterpiece. I thought it was The Road, just from what I've heard people say. They like the greatest horror story, just whatever. It's always like The Road's up there. Everybody talks about it, but apparently Blood Meridian is his masterpiece, his best work ever.
I was actually kind of surprised to see that they were even talking about it in that literature group.
Well, Cormac McCarthy is the closest they get to modern classic literature. He's like fucking 90 years old. He's old as shit, so...
Even though that he doesn't use, like, commas and stuff?
We'll have to see if it's extreme in this book as it is in The Road. But The Road, from what I remember, there wasn't a lot of, like, apostrophes and commas and a lot of run-on sentences, I think.
Maybe that was just, like, a stylistic thing.
Well, that's what I thought, but when I got done reading that, I asked people in that group who read his other work if all his stuff's like that or just The Road, because it did feel like The Road was very bleak and stuff, and that writing style actually did fit that story, but they said, like, all his stuff's like that, which is why people either really like him or hate him.
I was saying, because you would think, too, like, if it's, like, if you played the game of, like, where's this story, like, is somebody writing the story down for somebody or something like that, so it's like, if they were... Like, yeah, they probably wouldn't have commas every place. And they would be run-on sentences, like you said, and things like that, because they're just jotting it down.
Right. Well, I have no idea how this book's written. I didn't even really want to read the synopsis too much.
Do we even know what the story's about?
I just know it's Wild West times.
Oh, okay.
And lots of scalping.
Ooh.
That's all I know. Because I started reading the back and I was like, no, I want to go in fresh, because I hate when I ruin it for myself by getting these expectations and then it doesn't follow through. So I because I kind of did that with The Road, because I was like, I never saw the movie, so I was like, I kind of know what it's about. But then, like, the synopsis, like, you know, or the blurb on the back kind of gave too much away. It was like, oh, hellscape, future world with cannibals. And like, so there's cannibals. Like, that was like a thing that came up in the book, like, kind of more of a surprise than it was, you know, if you wouldn't have been surprised if you read the fucking synopsis. So anyway, that's for anybody, again, who wants to join us. By the time this episode drops, we might be reading that. It just depends when I get done with Revival.
Yeah.
I'm trying to hurry. And I'm telling you, you can read that Norm Macdonald book in a couple of days. I read it in one day.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm sure it seems like a quick kind of read, especially because I imagine it has to be kind of a lot like his personality and like style, like a stand-up style and things like that. Like,
he has a lot of his famous jokes in there, like his Moth joke and stuff like that, which is, you know, just great because I like those stupid jokes. But then he even elaborates on them more in the book. But also, like, I think the beginning, I think it's like the first story he's telling is just like very Mark Twain like. It reads just like Mark Twain, and then it really fucked up ending to the very first part of this. Like this, it's like when he's a kid. He kind of goes all over the place, but he does go like periods of his life. But like the one when he's a little kid, it's just so fucked up how it ends.
Do you think any of it's real?
No, I think he just fucking
all
off.
of it.
All of it.
Like,
well, I know it's not real because there's so many parts about Adam Egget giving $15 hand jobs under the Queensboro Bridge or Queensbridge, whatever it is.
Well, I was gonna ask because like I watched last week whenever you sent me that thing on Instagram of like the video of him with his like co-host. Thing. I was gonna say, do you think any of those comments are real, that he just made those up to just fuck with the guy?
I think he just makes it all up. Well, like his famous Moth joke on Conan, when he goes into it, apparently it's only a 20-second joke he heard off of Colin Quinn, which the joke is like, you know, a moth goes into a podiatrist's office and the podiatrist asks him, you know, because the moth has some mental problems. He's like, why'd you come in here? And he's like, because the light's on. Yeah. That's the joke, 20-second joke. Norm Macdonald, they told him, because he didn't have any material, he didn't know he did his first, like, thing, his interview. He didn't know they wanted him to do another one, like, come back, because, like I said, they didn't have a guest or something. So they're like, hey, can you, fill some time? He's like, I don't have any, more material. So he just made up the whole 7 minutes of that Moth joke by using Dostoevsky and Tolstoy Russian themes. So all the characters are like Greg Garro, and like the guy's having this fucking life crisis. The Moth, he's having this life crisis with his job and the power his boss has on him and all this crazy shit. He just made it up on the spot. And so that's in the book. And but it's funny because the book is very Mark Twain, like the writing is Mark Twain style, and even like just how like he's telling his story of when he's a kid and stuff. But then it goes very Hunter S. Thompson, where they start to go to Vegas and just like fucking weird shit starts happening. And it also has a lot of those Russian themes because he was a big fan of Russian literature. So it's just like, I was very surprised how well written the book was. Because, like at Norm Macdonald, I know he's a big reader and stuff, even though he always played the dumb guy. But just because you read a lot of like that stuff doesn't mean you'd write like that. But he does.
And also, too, you figure, because, he probably does like, he seemed like a guy who wrote a lot of his comedy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the words, like, what he was saying, like, those words were chosen for a purpose. But again, that's a very different kind of writing compared to writing, a novel.
Well, he does another brilliant thing in the book where he kind of, I wouldn't say he breaks the fourth wall, but all of a sudden he just introduces this ghostwriter. And then, because it's not a memoir, but he writes it like he hired this fucking ghostwriter who wrote the book for him. And this guy has his own shit going on. So at the very end, like something happens to that guy. It was very fucked up, like all the shit. And then, like, I think the last chapter or something is supposed to be actual Norm Macdonald writing. And it's all like fucking stupid. Like, like you just no periods, no fucking capitalization. So it was just very, very entertaining. And if you folks are a fan of like classic literature like Mark Twain or some wild shit like Hunter S. Thompson, and then you put it in like a modern lens, like through, if you're a fan of like SNL and stuff like that, like check out that book. I was very, very surprised.
Or if you're just a fan of his like stand-up or anything.
Yeah, if you're just a fan of Norm Macdonald.
Yeah, it seemed like something just to check out.
Yeah, that was one of the first modern books I've given a 5-star review for in a long time. Like, that got 5 whiskey shots for me. I think that and Drew McGarry's The Hike.
Yeah.
I think there's the 2 books I really enjoyed that were written past like 2010.
That girl from work who I let borrow The Hike, she was telling me, because like she's her and some of her friends are trying to do a book club, and then I can't remember if she said it like a podcast thing or just like a traditional one, just with them getting together, just because like her and her friends are trying to do some more reading, and she said like one of the first books that she's gonna put out as a suggestion to the group is The Hike. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
Deservedly so. Ash, he picked up a copy of Postmortal, Drew McGarry's other book.
Okay.
So I told him, let me know how that is, because I want to check that out. Because he's been reading a lot of shitty books. He just told me, I forget the name of it, and I didn't want to look it up. He told me he just read this one, because he's been trying to read a lot of new literature lately. I don't know. And he keeps like, oh, it's shitty. I was like, well, quit reading shitty books. Yeah. But he told me he wrote a review for the website, like a drunken book review on it. He said it was the first ever 0 shots. 0 out of 5 whiskey shots. And I was like, damn, I can't wait to read that one. So I'll check that out probably later tonight or tomorrow. You know what? Today's going to be a DBS episode. How do you feel about that?
I'm alright with that.
We had some real episodes lately, so DBS all the way for today. Now let's come up with a topic. We have a topic. Of course, we have a topic.
Right after this, folks.
Right after these messages from Spencer sponsors. Do you have anal warts? Do you need cream? Sorry, Spencer. I wish we could get an anal warts guy on here to do a sponsor for us. Like, wart cream, he's not made of anal warts. Let's just end the cold open now. It's getting too gross. Gross. Welcome to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, Spencer, the Samoan Super Saiyan Church.
There you go.
I'm going to give you one cool one because the rest are going to be Halloween themed from here on out. So
the Halloween ones could be cool.
I guess you could have been like the Samoan Spooky Spectre Church.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's
Spooky
a good one,
Spectre.
yeah.
Yeah. From Samoa. You know what? I
because you figured this episode's going to be released in October.
So you're not Super Saiyan. You're Spencer, the Samoan Spooky Spectre Church. I think we need more Samoan horror stories. Because I know they probably got some fucking mythology over there. That'd be cool.
I'm sure they would have some cool shit that you could play around with.
Yeah, I'd like some ghost stories, some specters from Samoa. Today we are not talking about much of anything, so goodbye. See you later.
You downloaded it already.
You been doing any writing?
This week so far, I've wrote 2 out of the 4 days. I got somewhere around like almost 800 words done. I plan on doing, at least when I get a couple hundred more done tomorrow on Friday, so that at least within like a 5-day work week, as at least like 1,000 words. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I figure that's a good goal, but at least a starting goal. I figure if I can kind of keep something like that going for the next couple weeks, that can add up pretty after a while.
Not yesterday, but the 2 days preceding that, Monday and Tuesday, I think I got a total like somewhere around 1,200 words. The first day was like 800. The other one was like 3 or 4. Like
there's like one day you get like a good amount,
good chunk, and
then the other one you're lucky if you get anything.
I mean, it wasn't too bad because both days I think I only wrote for like 45 minutes or something. Because I went back to that one story, the big story I'm working on, because I'm at the very last scene. Like I
just finished it.
I honestly could just knock it out in a couple paragraphs if I really wanted to, but I'm thinking now maybe stretch it to 15,000 words. Because Ashley was supposed to be working on a sci-fi story, but he was having trouble. Because he's not a sci-fi writer. Yeah. He just asked me, like, any genres or anything we don't have in the collection? For those who don't know, we're working on a collection. And I was like, well, I don't think we have any sci-fi stories. He's like, oh, I'm on it, boss. And then he said he was excited because he had a couple stories, like they were going good, and then, they fizzle out. Yeah. Which I know because I was writing, and we brainstormed this last week, I think. It was like a kind of like a futuristic story about like a neon city, and I just kind of like the imagery, and I started writing a story about it, and I just realized after like the first arc, it's just kind of boring.
Well, and then also too, you always see these stories with authors that have certain like especially like bigger stories, like they're like Stephen King's like Under the Dome, this one of his newer huge books. Yeah. He had that idea like over like 20 years ago, but he wasn't at that point in time, even though like he's done stuff like, like The Stand and It and stuff like that. He didn't feel like at the time he could tell that story properly. Like
the way he would want to.
And, and had like the writing chops and, you know what I mean? And things like that. So it's just like, you never know, like that story might like 5 years down the line
come back,
and you know what I mean, you'd be like, now I got an idea, or now I was having trouble with this, but now I know how to fix it, or I know how to, you know what I mean, just because you'd hopefully approve, you're always approving, hopefully. So
I plan on going through some of my old work in the future, probably like next year sometime, because I'm going to start that after we're done with this initial stories for this collection. I'm going to start writing my novel. So whenever, the first draft of that's probably done, I'm going to go back to, because I know I had a lot of stuff where I might even been 20,000 words into a story, and then I ended up bailing on it for one reason or the other.
I even remember there being a couple of stories.
I've had a few novellas that I was really liking it, but my writing wasn't up to where I wanted it to be at the time. But now I think I'm at the point where I can go back to those stories and maybe rework them.
And then, now, do you think you would read a story however many, you got like 5 pages of a story or whatever?
I'd probably start from the beginning. I would probably bring them up on my computer and write them out by hand and change like the pacing and the layout.
Well, that's what I was, I was wondering if you would just read the story and be like, okay, that's what I was thinking, and then just go on a new one, or actually just like, as you read it one time and then you just dive into that one and fix that, or if just start over once you've got yourself reacquainted with the story.
Yeah, and you were talking about improved writing. A fitness article popped up on the old internet today.
Okay.
And it had a pretty funny title. And I clicked on it and realized it was an article I wrote in 2015. And holy shit, that thing is fucking hilarious. It's like, because that was when I was, like, they wanted me to do, like, satire, ridiculous, alpha male, like, bullshit. But it was such bullshit. I was like, I'm going to really go extreme with it. I'm talking about, like, fucking palming babies' heads and using them, like, for curls, like dumbbells. Like, just all kinds of dumb shit. But what stuck out to me the most was not the language and stuff, but just, like...
The premises?
My sentence structure, my grammar has improved so much since that time.
Like, and then we palmed that baby's head.
I mean, I wasn't like fucking remedial, but just like the finer aspects of, like the period goes outside of the parentheses unless it's its own sentence, like things like that. I didn't know back then, and they didn't have like, that was like the lower end site that didn't have an actual editor. It was before I went to like the different places I was writing where they actually had editors assigned to me and all that dumb shit. Like that one, they just wouldn't let me write anything. It didn't matter. They just like, write anything. We just need content. We'll pay you. So I was writing the most ridiculous things I could think of. And that was probably one of the funnest times as a writer I've ever had. But that's just when I was first starting out. That was before I was even really writing like fiction. Because I always like wrote and dabbled in fiction even when I was a kid. But I was never completing things. No. I was never, and if I did, they weren't really any good, or I just didn't, like, I was at this stage until probably my early 20s where I was like, oh, if I write a story, you just write the story and it's done. Like, I didn't know anything about rewriting and fucking all that and outlining. I didn't know any of that shit, really. I just I just want to tell a story. Like, a lot of, like, how kids go into fan fiction. Like, they write fanfic. They just want to tell, like, hey, I have an idea. I'd like to see Harry Potter do this. And then they write that story. That's kind of where I was. Like, I always had the love for writing, but not the work ethic to actually make it good.
I was going to say, I imagine your vocabulary from those beginning articles to now,
my natural vocabulary is much better. And actually, because... I mean, yeah, like the things I read obviously helps, like all the classic literature over the years and stuff, but just being on the podcast too, like just like the different things we talk about and discuss on here, you just slowly build up your vocabulary and stuff just through, having conversations. What I also noticed was that back then I can tell that I was really phoning it in, because what I mean by natural vocabulary is things like, you actually use them properly, not looking in a thesaurus to... Like, back then, I was looking at, oh, that's great. Great's not. I need a better word. Okay. And then you go and look at the old fucking thesaurus to come up with, some fucking, the biggest word you can think of. Tremendous or, stupendous. Something stupid that doesn't even fit. Because I'm a firm believer now in the, usually the first word is the best word. The only reason I change that in my writing now is
if you're using the same word a whole bunch.
Yeah, like that's when I'll use like synonyms is when I'm doing that. But for the most part, like your word choices, which I find writing by hand really helps, because that's the most natural vocabulary is going to come out. Because when you're writing by hand and you don't have your phone or your computer or anything, you can't be like, I need a better word, and then do that. You just, whatever you could think of is what's going to be on the page, and then you can change it later, obviously. So that was one of the fun things, like going back and reading those articles. I do get a little cringy though, because I'm like, oh man, I'm so edgy. Like, I can't believe my grammar sucked that bad. Like, I mean, again, my grammar wasn't atrocious by any means, but like Cormac McCarthy would have liked me, because commas were not a thing I was using properly at all.
And to think that that's what you were getting paid for. Out of all your writing, that's the thing you get paid for.
Apparently, I didn't know what an independent clause was at all back then, because there was no separation. Like, and or but was just going right after whatever sentence, no comma, nothing. M dashes were a thing I didn't understand. Some of the later ones, I must have fell in love with semicolon, because I was using them motherfuckers every other paragraph. But it's just funny, because when you can go back in the old time capsule to look at your older work, not only do you kind of laugh because, like, you're always going to suck. Even like Stephen King probably goes back to something he wrote 10 years ago and it's like, oh man, I got a lot better. Like, things like that. But just like the things like you at that time, like I said, M dashes, you'd be like, oh man, I must have just learned about M dashes around this time period because I kept using them so much. Or I must have just learned. I must have really learned how semicolons work because I use the fuck out of those bitches. Like, I love that kind of stuff. And then everybody goes through their metaphor phase and their fucking simile phase, and you just get like, oh man, every other fucking sentence is a simile. Why? It's not necessary. But I like fun stuff like that. But reading those articles is just nice to be like, oh yeah, I used to write for fun, not just like to get paid and just do work. Like I actually really had fun writing those articles.
Do you ever check out the emails you get from Grammarly at all?
I don't get emails from Grammarly.
Oh. I get like the.
It probably goes into a different box, like not my inbox, but
maybe like your junk or your spam thing or something like that.
I don't remember what I signed up with Grammarly with, but if it's my like professional quotation, my professional writing email, not my junk email, then it probably goes into, because Gmail has like the primary and the social inboxes and whatever, and then those are separate from like your actual inbox. My junk email is like an old Hotmail that I use for like when I go to like Five Below and they're like, oh, what's your email? We need it. And I was like, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Like, here, and I give them the junk one. So,
well, no, I just say because like they do things like they will have things that they tell you like you've like I always get whenever I see them, it's like you use not bigger words, but you know, like
your vocabulary,
like better vocabulary than a certain percentage of everybody else using Grammarly, or like your spelling errors haven't been, and then like it will show you like, you know, like your most common mistakes and things like that.
What do you think the curve is on that though? Like the over under, because like there's probably a shitload of people in there like just fucking one finger. I like big butts and I cannot lie. And like, and then you got fucking, you know, whoever the top, some guy that thinks he's Edgar Allan Poe, just fucking.
That would be an interesting thing to check out.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine there's a lot more dummies than fucking guys overwriting.
Well, that's what I assume if I was like getting high marks of like, you know, and that
makes you wonder, like,
and that's even to say like how much is that is actually accurate. Like, why they might just send the same things out to everybody.
Well, it's like anytime I take like typing test online. Or anything, because I like to do those every once in a while, just like if I can't get in a flow of writing, sometimes it's just the actual act of typing, and usually the ones I use, they have it'll be like Dickens or something, like you're just copying Dickens, so those kind of get me in the mood real quick. And a lot of times they'll be like, oh, you're in the 90% of, you know, the top writers or whatever the fuck it is. And I was just like, how many people are taking this test then? Yeah. Like, how many people
like
are
five
just...
or...
Yeah, is there just a lot of people on here that are hot garbage? Because, like, I'm a fast typer. I, like, maybe 90 to 100 words per minute. I don't even remember what my best was. Probably in high school because I took typing class, but back when that was a thing. I probably don't do that anymore, but...
Because the kids don't need to know that now.
They don't even give a shit about typing anymore. It's all about phones and tablets and shit probably. But even so, like 100 words per minute, I don't think is like, I mean, I know it's better than most people, but I don't think it's like, you know, fuck, I'm the top 10% of the world. Like, I don't think it'd be that amazing. But regardless, like, I just always wonder, like, how many people are actually taking this test, and how many people are just failing miserably? Like, I can type 10 words per, like, looking directly at the keyboard and stuff. And those, you know, those tests are very fucking bullshit sometimes too, because it's like it doesn't always factor in different levels. Like, because if you threw in the fucking letter, the numbers at the top, if you threw that into the thing, well, my fucking typing is probably going to drop down to like 85, because like a few of those, like especially if it's like the pound symbol and stuff, I'm not fucking remembering. Is that the 8? Like, yeah, like, you know, different things like that can fuck you up too. But like a lot of times, like you'll have one test that'll just be like a normal couple paragraphs or whatever. But then you have another one that throws in a bunch of numbers and dashes and shit. And it's like, well, this isn't equal at all. Like, whoever got the fucking easier one's going to get the higher score probably. Anyway, I don't want to talk about that. But do you ever read some of your old work or unfinished projects and just go back and just reminisce on the old days of being garbage at writing?
I never, well, you say that like I'm still not garbage at writing. I've never went back and like anything like we published on the website and stuff. I haven't really went back to check out, because that's almost too like I equate that to like downloading the podcast and listening to it. It would just be terrible, and I would
hate it.
Yeah, I'd hate it, and I would feel terrible, and I would just want to end it afterwards. But what I do sometimes that I want to do more is to go back and check out the stories that I didn't finish, you know, that I've got like a couple hundred words into or whatever, you got a couple pages into and then just petered off or whatever. Yeah. I would like to go back and at least eventually just finish those, because, you know, I must have had something going, like, you know what I mean, as just something to put onto the website, you know what I mean, for more content, and, you know, just to...
I feel like if I did that, I would never write anything new again, because I have so much unfinished stuff in my fucking folders and stuff. But yeah, that's not a bad idea. Well, then also
it depends on, like, the degree.
What it is, and
yeah, you're like, am I 2 paragraphs into it, or am I, like, 3 or 4 pages into it? Like, you know what I mean? And how long the story is, so...
Let me ask you this, because this kind of makes me mad. I mean, I know I shouldn't, because it doesn't really matter, but my most viewed, like, my most viral content... The things that got hundreds of thousands, well, probably millions of views now, honestly, because like some of those websites already had like millions of followers on different social media platforms. But I've looked at the numbers over the years whenever some of these will pop up. And it's like my most viral stuff was like when I was like really garbage at writing. And your most viral article ever is when you first started out with like hundreds of thousands of views now. And it was like something you fucking shit out, didn't care about, and put no effort into. And it's just like, You really, because we put multiple stories on the site that we were very passionate about, at the time worked very hard on.
It took long time.
Took months and and nothing.
It took me forever to write daily rounds. It took me months.
That was your first big project, wasn't it?
That was like my first like big, like ambitious, like I had this big story idea and I'm gonna do it. And it's probably like, I'd be lucky if you got more than like 20 clicks probably.
My Asher Kang story, I thought was one of the best things I ever wrote, and it got like 10 views, like when it initially published.
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't even know how many it got over because it's longer, because that one's probably like 10 to 20,000. I don't remember. But all those stories I have written for the site that are over 10,000 words, or even just when we got submissions and stuff, any of the few, like there's a few that were over 10,000 words. They never get that many views because people see, because it tells you at the beginning how long it'll take you to read. And those are like 45 minutes, an hour. And people are like, yeah, fuck it. It's just very disappointing. Because I've seen that trend. Because when we first started, the longer stories actually did get more, like they got a good bit of views. But over the years, people just aren't interested in longer fiction anymore.
Well, then also, too, I think it's longer fiction, reading it off your phone.
It's a big,
or your tablet or whatever, you know what I mean? So
well, that's why I think our collection, like that'll be the test to see like how well that does if people are interested. Because I mean, it's gonna be a mix of flash fiction, long fiction and stuff. But if we get some feedback, like do you guys like the long fiction in written form, like an actual book or an ebook? Because if it's an ebook and you download it, that means you're probably already a reader. Yeah. Like you're gonna be, whether it's on your phone or a Kindle or something, like you're used to reading on that device, so you're not gonna be having a problem. Or if you bought a physical copy, actually you're fucking more invested. But if you're just reading on a website, I can understand, because I often have read like articles on popular mechanics or different things like that. Like I see articles and they'd be really good, or even National Geographic or something.
And you just find yourself skimming.
Well, even like the ones I'm really interested, like the New Yorker will post some good articles about like authors I like or something, and I'll be reading. I'm really invested, but I'm like, I've been reading for 45 minutes, and this thing is only at the halfway mark. Yeah. Like, and then I just kind of bail because I just don't like reading on my phone like that.
It is difficult.
It's just weird. Not fun. Yeah, and I mean, I guess people read on their computers. I'm not that guy either. I don't read anything on my computer at all. I don't even like read my stories on there.
Well, I mean, now with the how a lot of the computers will like do the flip or whatever.
Well, mine does that too, but I just don't enjoy
Well, no, but I'm just saying like that I could see, because then you just kind of have like a big ass tablet. I don't do it, but that I could see making sense. What we really need to do is we need to find out a way to tell stories in list form.
This is the biggest tip I ever got in my writing career, was to write articles in list form, because that's what people want, and they do. And you are proof,
because your
fucking million viewed article was in list form, because that was like right after I was like, hey Spencer, you've been writing some articles, but make sure you put them in list form. You're like, okay. As soon as you did, look what happened.
Because like the list form format is like whatever the topic is, you see whoever's at the number, the picture, and then you skip all the fucking words.
Yeah, that you don't care about that. And always go descending. Because like you said, people skip. But if it's, top 10 bad Marvel characters and you have number 1 first.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, Well, that sucks. That's number one. I don't care about the rest. Maybe you'll like scroll real fast just to see if there's any surprises, but that'd be it. But if you do 10 to 1, then all of a sudden, now you're invested because you say, well, 10, but well, who's the next one then? And be like, oh, you better not be fucking Wolverine. That would be stupid. I'll be mad if he's considered a bad character. And then, you just go down the list.
Yep.
So that's a pro tip for you because I've been reading a lot of articles lately that are when we read them on the show. And I'm like, hey, why is this ascending? Why is it 1 to 10? You gave and then they'd be, oh, this is our number one pick. We think it's the best. Well, then why am I going to continue? So I'd read a lot of reviews, like phone reviews or Kindle reviews or whatever it is, like e-readers and stuff. And they'll do that on that website, those websites, like 1 to 10. I'm like, well, why am I going to go to 10? If it's something I'm thinking about buying and I see this is the best one and this has got the best price and the most pros, and like, why would I even look at the rest?
Right.
Unless I'm just being an asshole and will be, I want something different because I don't want to be like everybody else.
The one thing though that I like that we always did when it came to that stuff that you find a lot of websites doing, and it's very aggravating, is you have to click for each new, like, one, like, it's 10, whatever.
Ooh.
10, and then
I always refuse to do that. New page for each one.
Yeah, I hate that shit.
Most websites, and I'll usually not even read it if it's that, but most websites do that because they can load new ads on each page. We don't have ads. And if we did, I wouldn't do that. The only reason I even do that for like our short stories or some articles where I'll have it on a separate page is just because it'll make it load faster on people's devices. Because if you have a bad internet connection and you have an article that's fucking, super long, if it's all on one page, it might, fuck up or not load right or whatever. But if you just have, break it up a little bit, it's not that bad. It'll be a more enjoyable read. Because a lot of people don't really think about formatting issues when they just read people's articles.
I never, before any of this shit, you know what I mean? I would maybe think about, like, oh, how would they do that or how they set up it? I would never put no real thought into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a thing I had to learn from scratch, too, because other than, the old MySpace days and stuff, I didn't know anything about coding. I didn't know anything about setting up the page. And, like I knew some basic things because I took, like, a website design class when I was in high school, but that was in the early 2000s, so, the websites we were making were pretty shitty. Like, they weren't like they are now.
But now you can surf the darknet now, right?
Yes.
Maybe, no.
No.
Plead the fifth.
I wouldn't do such a thing. No, I've been on that. There's a lot of creepy shit. Like, you have to know what you're looking for, though. It's not like you just be like, just type in something on the darknet and it's just going to go to creepiness. Like, you have to, on the dark web, you have to, like, find either, like, a dark Wikipedia that'll tell you a list of gross things to see, or if you want to buy drugs or guns, but it's not worth it. And honestly, most of the stuff's just like weird shit that shouldn't be on there anyways. Like people's like candy shops that aren't nefarious at all, or like there's like a bagel, like guy just selling bagels, like his bagel website, but he just has it on the dark web instead of the regular web because he's stupid. I don't know. Like, you'll see shit like that too.
I think that would get you in trouble.
There's a lot of weird people that are off. The dark web's not illegal. It's just people put illegal shit on there because all the dark web is the stuff that you can't find easily, like in a search engine. Yeah. You can't just be like on Google and be like, hey, where can I buy crack rock? Yeah. That shit will get filtered out by fucking police, FBI, whatever. But if you go on the dark web, it goes deeper. The old iceberg. The regular web is the top of the iceberg, and the dark web's all the gritty stuff underneath the water. But what was I just talking about besides the dark web? You fucked me up, Spencer.
I'm sorry.
Jerk. Formatting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when it came to like the website, because I redesigned it a couple times, and I like to think I made it better each time, because our initial page was like black and like the themes, because good thing like WordPress, because we use the WordPress.com, not the .org, because now I only do that because I just didn't want to find another host to pay. Like I was just like, well, they already have the security features and stuff at the .com. I'm not too worried about like customizing everything. So
especially then,
so
let's see what this goes first.
Yeah. So with like the different themes and stuff on there, like most of them are adequate for what we need or what most people need. But if you want to like go to the WordPress.org and like design your whole own web page, it's more labor intensive. But if you're like a graphic artist or something, or like you're a photographer and you really want something specific, like you could do that. And it's not a problem. Like there's so many tutorials online. Because honestly, I did have a lot of problems on WordPress with stupid shit because they'd make a change and then all of a sudden like a certain color we had like.
I remember you.
Yeah.
Fucking pitching a fit when they got rid of the gold.
They brought it back. Well, yeah, because we would have like our hyperlinks and stuff in gold because it stands out on our background because our background's like a brownish or maroon or something. I forget, burgundy, something like that color. Like they just fucked it up for whatever reason and then made it the same color as the rest of the text, and then you couldn't see where our hyperlinks are in any of our old articles or anything. And then I had to like get a custom fucking code off of some guy and do all this shit. I also had to do that a couple times where like some of the menus, they just didn't look the way I wanted them, like the colors. They'd be like an off green instead of like the gold color, and I was like, what the fuck is that? And I had to like learn how to code that. And I mean, but it's cool that you can do that though, like on there. It's not just like you get a theme and you're stuck with whatever colors they say. You can't customize them. But just learning all that, like I would say the first 2 or maybe even 3 years of DPW, just me learning how to do everything.
Oh yeah,
like all the website stuff, and then like I mean I don't do the mail list anymore, but I'm gonna bring it back. The mailing list, I just didn't give a shit really, but I need to bring it back because we actually do have subscribers to that. So like do that, and like the podcast was like the biggest undertaking because I didn't know anything about podcasting. Like, you know, website design and stuff, I knew some stuff, but podcasting, nothing.
Oh, the trial and error that it took to get this thing started.
If you even listened to our first, I don't know, 10 to 12 episodes, I think we sounded, like, especially the first one, we sounded like fucking kind of like kids. Like, we were real, like, our voices were high-pitched and we're kind of tinny. And I mean, the recording location for the first 2 years of this podcast were garbage, but...
Not good, yeah.
We were in my kitchen and everything was open and there's fucking, you know, Apache helicopters overhead.
And then, too, you figure, like, just all the talking... That's gonna put, you know, that's gonna work the vocal cords. Because I remember listening to some old, like, Kevin Smith's podcast from when he first started, like, 10 years ago, or, like, an interview or something like that. And his voice is, like, completely different from now.
Yeah.
But again, that's just, you know, you do a lot of talking. We're getting older, too.
Right.
And stuff like that. And just also, the equipment and stuff and the settings and stuff too. I imagine how we had things set up before didn't help the way our shitty voices sound.
No, that table that was broken and would always tip over. Fucking animals running around. That old I don't know how we even recorded, honestly. I think now, like, the chairs barely fit in there. Like, it was so cramped in there. The dog fucking always was running around. If Mindy was home, it was done.
Yeah,
we just couldn't do the podcast at all because in that house, like, you could hear every noise. But now we got a whole studio. It's amazing.
Could you imagine if you had the cat back then?
They wouldn't even start the podcast. I would have said, fuck it.
It would have destroyed everything. She likes getting down here and just fucking with things now. Could you just imagine things being out in the open?
She'd probably just fucking tear everything up. Like, can you believe we had this mixer on that shitty table?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like... And
I just put, like, a fucking t-shirt over it and just had it sitting there. Like, all because like, there's so many cables. I don't want to unhook everything, but... Like, I don't even know how your mic never got snagged on shit. Because you were, like, against a wall in a corner.
Yeah, I was pinned in, like, not even a corner. I was pinned against the wall. And
we had to move a whole table to get... Did we have any of those pictures on Instagram?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
Let me look, because I'll send the fucking listeners there if we do. Because, like, that setup was garbage.
But, yeah, it was just not a good time.
No, but you know what? When you're starting out, it's like when you're a kid learning how to drive. You don't need a fucking Corvette. You need a shitty car.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You need a car that just runs and might break down on you, but not in a way that's not fixable. But like, oh man, how do I fix an oil leak? Like, you know, things like that to develop your skill as a car owner. You can't just be like, you know, if you start a podcast with the best equipment in the nicest room and just like writing, if you start off with the most high-tech software and stuff, you're never going to really learn the basics, you know? Like, you're not going to know the grind to become, you know, better at it. I got you with Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan?
Hulk Hogan, yeah. I got a picture of me and Arnold. You holding a hammer? No, we do not. Ew, you remember when we had the table that way in here, though? What were we thinking?
Yeah.
It was like long ways.
That was one of the first setups, yeah.
You were in the open area. Yeah. Like, why did we have it like that?
Well, that's before the curtain's not there, right?
No, we didn't have the curtain. But you remember I always had to, like, fucking walk around the table? Like, that was stupid. We still haven't got the dream table, though.
No.
This table's, I don't mind it, though.
This is a good steady, just, you know, I don't want to say cheap table, but
Yeah.
it did definitely a better job than the table that we had.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a little bit better. We didn't have all the tiles up on the wall, but that was mostly completed. So when was that? That was, well, I guess I've only lived here a year, huh? Yeah, that was 1 year ago. So, yeah, we come a long way in just a year in this studio. So anyway, folks, I'm hungry. I'm going to eat some food.
Yeah.
Mandy said she ordered pizza.
Ooh.
And chicken wings.
She didn't want to burn some pizza in the oven again?
No. By the way, nobody tell Mindy. I got a new big bookcase I built today before Spencer came over, and it turns out it didn't look good in the studio or in my study, I guess.
You just wanted one in the bedroom. Don't even pull that shit.
My wife said I can't have one in there. I don't know why. There's plenty of room. She's like, I don't want any more books. And you know what? I just put it there and I nailed it into the wall and everything. So just don't tell her about it. I'm hoping she doesn't even notice. First thing, what the fuck is it? Oh, she's home. But anyway, if you folks want to check out the old fiction we were talking about, you can go to drunkenpenwriting.com. We are also open for Halloween submissions. So check out the guidelines on that website there. Or you can go to Twitter. It's our pinned tweet. That'd be the easiest way. Same with, no, I don't think I pinned it on Facebook because they have a stupid setup. Like on mobile. You can't pin stuff on mobile for some reason. On our Facebook page. I don't know why.
Really? You can't just have like a thing there that...
Like Twitter has a button. It just says you want this to be your pinned tweet or whatever, or take off pinned tweet. But fucking Facebook, like, it doesn't do that. You have to go on the actual computer. I'm never on there. But anyway, at Drunk Pen Writing on Twitter, at Drunken Pen Writing on Facebook and Instagram, and YouTube. We're not on YouTube anymore. We're on YouTube.
Okay.
It's a very Jewish YouTube. So thanks for listening, and Spencer.
Yes.
Your OnlyFans. Is it Samoan Spooky Spectre or is it the Samoan Super Saiyan?
Samoan Spooky Spectre.
Spooky Spectre. Okay, yeah. I just wanted, because I threw two at you. I didn't know which one you... Because I know as soon as I say it, you put it in there.
Yeah.
Because you have to be on that, because you don't want somebody stealing it.
I mean, the Samoan Super Saiyan, I like that, but to keep with the...
the theme.
Yeah.
Now, do you actually, like, start a new OnlyFans every time you do this, or does it allow you to change the name? We'll keep it a mystery.
Yeah,
you know what?
Keep it a mystery.
You can tell me off air. How about that? Because I'm thinking about starting my own. It'll be about books, though. In the nude.
In the nude.